We're going to change some oxygen sensors on this truck, but before we do that, just pulling off the cover off the fuse block here and take a look. And we have our oxygen sensor fuse that's right here, and that fuse is right there. We've checked the fuse and the fuse is good. Here is one of the oxygen sensors here, which is behind the cat, and the wiring to the plug. And up front there you should be able to see the one in front of the cat. This is the other oxygen sensor, which is in front of the cat there, and if you follow the wires it's going to go up, and the plug-in will be above the transfer case area up on top in here. Got to reach in, find it, and unplug it. Here it is with all the parts and pieces. It's going to be a 7/8 wrench in my case to get these sensors out. This is the one before the cat, and this is the one after the cat. A couple things to consider here is you want to make sure that you get the right sensor, and in my case here, this is the one before the cat, and we have the same plug configuration there. And the one after the cat, obviously there was a mistake and we do not have the same plug configuration there, but the end of the sensor is the same. So you need to make sure that you get the right sensor for the right location. In my case, for this 2000 Dodge Ram 1500, this was the correct sensor for the front before the cat. So this is the Bosch 13100. I choose Bosch because it was the highest rated sensor and I want some accurate readings out of this thing. I don't want to go cheap. And there again, you want to compare and make sure that the plug is correct. Something to take note of for these two sensors, this one here is before the catalytic converter and this one is after the catalytic converter. The heads are different configuration here, different style. So this one's before and this one's after. And then when you come down to the end, the plugs, even though they're the same configuration here, they're different. So if you compare side to side here, the space in between these two slots is different. This one is narrower than this one over here. So same configuration, but they will not plug in. They plug into their individual spot. You can't mix them up. In my case, I don't have a live data machine to check these sensors, so I have to use other methods, and I'm just going to be using a digital multimeter here to check the resistance on the old and new sensor. So what you want to do is you want to get your meter and you want to set it to ohms, and they're going to take your two probes here and you're going to probe the two white wires. In my case, they're two white wires. I've heard in other vehicles it might be a different color, but they'll be the same color. So that's for the heater, and you're gonna probe those 2 points there, and you're gonna get your resistance. So the old one that was before the cat metered out at 4.8 ohms, and the one that was after the cat, the old one, that metered out at 4.9 ohms. The new one metered out at 5.8 ohms. Next, I got the propane torch set up here to blow a flame onto the sensor, and then I got that held in the vise, hold it in place while we're doing this, and then we come back. We're going to take our meter and we're going to put it to DC volts, direct current, and this time we're going to, as we're heating that sensor there with the torch, we're going to be probing the gray and the black, and that's these two here. And what we're looking for is a reading for direct current voltage. So in my case, when I did this test here, for the one before the cat, I got 0.07 volts, and the one after the cat, I got 0.8 volts. and when I measured out the new one measured out at 0.8 volts. So that's the one here that was before the cat. 0.07 obviously is not a good reading, so I think that I'm pretty confident in changing this is going to make a difference. Now with the new sensor, they were kind enough to send some anti-seize with it, so apply some anti-seize on the threads here, because anything on the exhaust is going to get corroded and seized and not want to come apart very well. So this is going to be good to take it apart in the future. Also too, what I did was I just took some black tape here and I just taped up this sleeve to the bottom body here, so that the wires would not be exposed and compromised, because underneath the vehicle there with all the water and whatever, we don't want to compromise our wires into the sensor there. So next you want to screw your sensor in. Well, it's unplugged because it's gonna want to wrap this wire around and around. So put your sensor in. This is the front one before the catalytic converter with your 7/8 wrench. Tighten it down real good. This one will plug up above the transmission transfer case there. Again, you can't get it mixed up because the plug configuration is similar, but they're just different enough that you can't mix them up. And again, in the back, we got the sensor after the cat. We're gonna screw that in, use our 7/8 wrench to tighten it up real good. And another thing to make note of is when we plug this thing in, we don't want it down up against the exhaust here. So maybe if you can, try and get it in behind the heat shield, or fasten it up onto the transfer case, top of the transfer case somewhere in here, so that the wire doesn't end up coming down and hitting the exhaust and getting melted or damaged. This is what I'm talking about with that wire dangling down in here. We need something to support it up high so that it doesn't dangle down in here and get damaged. So there just ends up being a spot up here. So where the factory connector was, but it was broken, that holds it on top of the transfer case. So I just use a zip tie, tied that up there, so that'll keep that in place there. And the connector for our front sensor comes across over top here too. Once you've tightened down that front sensor, you got to feed the wire up over the top of the transmission transfer case here, and here's where the plug is to plug it in. It's over on the driver's side, actually, just at the top.